Religious extremists have a plan to keep women in their place, and terrifyingly, it is working. Let's dive into the real agenda behind abortion bans, amongst other things, and how it's not about babies or saving anybody's lives. Welcome back to Stay at Home Feminist. Your soft girl era starts here, along with the fall of the patriarchy. Per usual, we are unlearning the patriarchy one hot take at a time, and today's take is about how the war on women's rights isn't just about protecting babies or traditional values. It's about Christian nationalism trying to drag us back in time to when women couldn't vote, own property, or even wear pants without causing a scandal. I'm not wearing pants today, but they're pant-ish. I guess this counts as pants. It would have caused a scandal back in the day. Maybe it still will today. Who knows? Who knows? With these reverting times, every day is a new day of opportunity to be even more unhinged. What's crazy to me when I think about this topic is there's so much hypocrisy going on, but I think at like the most simple level, America was a country that was created because they were like, we want to not have religion be a part of the laws. Like separation of church and state was like the reason America started. Also like not wanting a monarchy. But that was like a combo because the monarchy and the church were like, and so to see politicians like preach Christian values and spread Christian nationalism and say like trans people shouldn't do this and gay people shouldn't do this and women shouldn't do this because it doesn't align with my Christian values. Like, how is that a talking point? Like there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. What do you mean? If it doesn't align with your Christian values, don't get top surgery. If it doesn't align with your Christian values, don't have an abortion. Like, why does your values have to inform how I want to live? You don't know my religion. Like, what? So yeah, I feel like it just doesn't even make sense that this is something that is okay for our politicians to say to me. Like that alone, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, where did you lose the plot around like the US and the way that we're supposed to separate church and state and the way that we're supposed to like have freedom of religion, et cetera, et cetera. Like, huh? Make it make sense. I mean, Project 2025 is alive and well. We knew this when Homeboy was running and he was all like, oh, I never even heard of such a thing. And now it is just like chugging along and really like winning, really taking over, like really taking off. A few examples off the top of my head. Maybe one most alarming one is the Department of Education is no longer a thing. And if that doesn't alarm you, oof, I don't know what to say, girl, because education is important. I think it is also funny and noteworthy that Trump's voter base is predominantly uneducated or at least non-college degree holding poor white people. And so kind of interesting that they're like, ooh, no more college. Because like the thing is like I'm rich. Like I can go to whatever school I want. My kids, wherever I live, like they can go to great schools. But for most of America, especially like rural America or places that aren't rich neighborhoods, like those are the communities that are going to be struggling, which are the same communities that seem to support a lot of this stuff. That's like a generalization, but you know what I mean by like the poor white folk demographic that I just referenced. So it's frustrating to see. It's frustrating to see. I feel the same with abortion bans. If I want to get an abortion, I could fly to Mexico and get one. Well, they're trying to ban pregnant people from traveling. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's like the point with this is that these cutbacks are predominantly going to affect the working class people. They are not going to affect the people making these policies. The mistresses, the daughters, the whoever's of these congressmen are still going to be able to get abortions. It's the average person that's not going to be able to get that health care. The children, the nephews, the whoever related to these politicians are still going to get great education. It's the average American who isn't going to get a good education. It's hard to even like stay on topic and like have some sort of structure to this episode because I feel like when I'm thinking about the rise of Christian nationalism and Trump's agenda, like everything I can think of, it's touching, it almost feels like. But let's try to pinpoint. I think obviously bodily autonomy is a huge one that they're going for. And we've seen this roll back. We've seen, you know, Roe v. Wade was overturned by a pretty extremist Supreme Court, very right-wing Supreme Court. And that's what Trump said he would would like want to do this whole time, which, that's like old news. I think something that has been very alarming since Trump's new administration, or his second term, I guess is a better way to say it, is the way that they are abandoning emergency care protections. The Trump administration's DOJ decided that he wanted to withdraw from a lawsuit that was challenging Idaho's near total abortion ban. Even to save the person's life, you can't get an abortion. That's what the Idaho ban was saying. So having the DOJ be like, I'm not going to care about this case, essentially signals a blatant disregard for women's health and autonomy. And, I honestly get people who don't agree with abortion. I think that's why choice is important. If you don't want one, don't get one. But I understand why people wouldn't. But you no longer get to sit here and say that you're pro-life when these bans are saying, yeah, women should die. Women should die. And if you need this life-saving healthcare or you die, we're going to let you die. Like, that's crazy. I don't even know how to form words around how much that doesn't make sense and how cruel it is. When I talk about this online, often in my comment sections, I get people being like, well, just close your legs. Well, you shouldn't be using this as birth control. And it's like, wait, are you not hearing what I'm saying? For me, this doesn't even feel like a stance on abortion. This feels like a stance on like a human who needs life-saving care. And that care happens to be an abortion. But I think it really shows the way that the narratives around bodily autonomy, women's health, and abortion is really, really like said through this like tunnel of nuance, like disregarding the nuances. Like if someone needs an abortion or they're going to die, like chances are that person was trying to have a baby. Like chances are that person wanted to carry their baby to term, but like things went wrong and it was ectopic pregnancy or who knows what, And so for our government to not prioritize the woman's life over the fetuses is really scary to me, because honestly, I want kids. And if I was in a place where like it was me or my fetus, I would be like, sorry, baby, like I'm doing what I got to do to survive. And I think most people would feel that way. And if they didn't, like, okay, sure, do you? But I'm sure my husband would feel that way. My husband would be like, get this fetus out of here. Let's save my wife, because like he doesn't want to be raising kids without me. Like these are people who are probably already mothers, and you're going to just like take their lives away from their children. And like, why do we get to be the ones who decide that? Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's hard to even like formulate and put into words because of how like insane of a notion it is that like people agree with this. Like I really, really can't wrap my head around it, that I almost don't even know how to talk about it, because it just feels so like obviously women shouldn't have babies at the expense of their own life. And obviously if they want to, that shouldn't be the government's choice. Like what are you talking about? But yeah, that's Project 2025 for you. That's Christian nationalism for you. And that's the Trump administration for you. And that's his DOJ. We see it with the way that they're trying to make fetal personhood a thing. And all of these things work to make women second-class citizens, that anytime the potential of us growing a human inside us, like gives that fetus more rights than us. Like that's the thing that I feel like the connection that isn't being made. Like I understand if you think abortion is sad, sure. If you think abortion is murder, sure, that's your prerogative. Like you're allowed to have your opinion, but why should I have to live by your opinion? Because I don't believe abortion is murder. I believe in soul contracts. I believe that every miscarriage, every abortion, like that soul maybe doesn't even enter the body. But if it does, I believe that that soul like knows that that is its karmic cycle. And like, that's what I believe. So why do I have to listen to your Christian nationalism? Separation of church and state, my fucking ass. So essentially what Idaho's near total abortion ban is trying to do is like directly contradict a federal protection called EMTALA. So the DOJ not backing this federal protection, EMTALA, is very troubling. EMTALA is the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. And by ceasing to enforce EMTALA, for example, in cases where emergency abortions are necessary, the administration is effectively allowing states to prioritize their religious doctrines over federal mandates that are there and designed to protect patients' lives. This tactic really exemplifies Christian nationalism seeking to reshape legal frameworks and doing so to reflect their own ideological perspectives. I mean, I feel like obviously this sets a very, very troubling precedent. This sort of legal retreat and backpedaling not only endangers women and people with uteruses in Idaho, but it also emboldens other states to enact similar sort of draconian laws. It sets a very dangerous precedent that this is okay to have these near total abortion bans at the expense of the pregnant person's life. The only way that this makes sense to me is that their overarching goal appears to be to establish a theocratic governance model where religious ideology supersedes individual rights, it supersedes secular laws, which is just inherently threatening the foundational separation of church and state. Like, there is no more church and state if this is what you're doing. Let's just name that little part, okay? So you guys no longer get to claim her. You no longer get to claim separation of church and state because you sent her back in. You booted her out the door, all right? What I don't think is talked about enough when thinking about the shmorshmorshin bans is the way that religious extremist groups have gone about funding shmorshmorshin bans and gender oppression, essentially. So let's take a little peek behind the curtain that is this money trail, because it's so wild to me that the same billionaires with a B, and if you think you're close to being a billionaire, you are not. If I was making this standard American wage since the time that your man Jesus was alive until now, I would not be a billionaire, okay? Billion is way bigger than millions. Do the math. Anyways, those same billionaires and evangelical groups like the Heritage Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom, and the Federalist Society, they're bankrolling all of these rollbacks. They're bankrolling all of these backpedaling step backs into a different era where they want to make America great again. Great again for who? Great again for who? You might have recognized the name Heritage Foundation because they are the ones who are known for creating Project 2025. Let's talk receipts, babe, because as we know, money talks, money talks. The war on women's rights and women's healthcare didn't just pop out of nowhere. The war on bodily autonomy for women and trans folk and the LGBTQ community and anyone who wants to make their own medical decisions that these nationalists don't agree with, essentially, didn't just happen overnight. It's funded and planned and executed by these three villains that I mentioned, just three evangelical Christian nationalists, think tanks lined up in a trench coat pretending to be good policy. And again, that's the Heritage Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom, and the Federalist Society. Yep, those are the same folks who helped overturn Roe v. Wade, and they are now writing the playbook for Trump's second term. It's giving Handmaid's Tale with a lobbyist budget, I fear. Side note, whenever I talk about the comparison between what's happening today and the Handmaid's Tale, people are like, that's fiction. That's fiction, you silly, silly girl, you silly, silly little girl reading your fiction books. Everything in that book is something that had happened in real life. It was like an amalgamation, all of the horrible atrocities against women that had happened in the real world. So sure, it's fiction, sure, but also it's based in truth. It's based on things that actually happened. So as I mentioned, and as you probably have heard, the American Heritage Foundation drafted a 900+ page document literally laying out how to reshape America essentially into a theocratic, far-right white Christian nationalist state. It pretty much reads like a how-to dismantle democracy for dummies. Reproductive rights, gone. LGBTQ+ rights, slashed. Environmental protections, shredded. Oh, and it's not just a theory. It's not just fiction. Trump's 2025 administrative agenda is pulling directly from it. But do you know who helped write the legal strategy for the overturning of Roe v. Wade? Because I didn't know this until researching this episode. As I said, I'm sure you had heard about the Heritage Foundation since Project 2025 was such a talked about thing and is such a talked about thing, importantly so. But I think the Roe v. Wade of it all seems like it happened slowly and then all at once. So the people who helped write the legal strategy that overturned Roe v. Wade is the Alliance Defending Freedom, which FYI, this group is one that the Southern Poverty Law Center literally labeled as a hate group. They are so hateful. They are so sick and twisted that the Southern Poverty Law Center literally is like, guys, we gotta classify them as a hate group. And so along with them working to overturn Roe v. Wade, they're behind, not surprising to no one, a slew of other lawsuits trying to restrict abortion pills, LGBTQ+ rights, gender affirming care. The Alliance Defense Fund has deep pockets and even deeper ambitions to turn their far-right Christian worldview into law. They are sipping that haterade, babe, and they want you to be drinking that same Kool-Aid with them. And as you know, they claim it's about faith, but it's really about controlling bodies and, surprise, surprise, maintaining white male dominance, the patriarchy of it all. If it was about faith and family values, why is Donald Trump your man? Mr. Been divorced multiple times, has multiple baby mamas. Those are not your traditional family values. But still, they'll tell you it's about faith, it's about family values, but anyone who's paying attention can clearly see that it's not. And if you can't clearly see that it's not, ask yourself, if it was really about protecting the sanctity of life, why don't they want abortion bans to make exceptions for saving the mother's life? So you're pro-life, but if the person who's pregnant dies, you're cool with that. The math isn't mathing. The math isn't mathing. If you are actually wanting to protect the sanctity of life, these religious extremists wouldn't want 10-year-olds to have to carry their grape babies to term while also taking away free school lunch programs and the Department of Education. But yes, spoiler alert, these laws are all about control. And in my books, that is not religion. That's not my religion, at least. You know what that is, though? It is white male dominance dressed up in his Sunday best. It's giving megachurch preacher. I don't want him anywhere near me or my theoretical children for that matter. But yeah, in my books, you can't call yourself pro-life because if you really wanted to be pro-life, you would care about the woman's life as well, and you don't. So STFU. And instead of actually caring about the sanctity of life, we've got states that are criminalizing doctors for providing life-saving care and women who are being turned away from emergency rooms. And as I mentioned, in Idaho, EMTALA, the federal law that guarantees emergency care, is literally being backpedaled just so hospitals can deny abortions. Because EMTALA doesn't just protect abortions. It protects like emergency care for people without insurance and like a bajillion other things. And so like all of EMTALA is being rolled back just to ensure that women who are going to DIE without a schmushmortion don't get that care. And don't forget, while they're banning schmushmortions, they're also coming for your birth control and they're trying to ban sex ed classes. I wonder why. It's almost as if nothing terrifies them as much as a woman who has rights and who knows how to use Plan B. And I can't help but to ask, why are we trusting these nut jobs? Again, I don't align with your Christian values. Why is that being shoved down my throat? Banning drag queens out of existence, trying to ban trans people from existence, trying to ban women from getting life-saving health care. So worried about children. Meanwhile, Trump's former spiritual advisor faces charges for lewd acts with a child. And you're worried about us? Can we all agree that when pastors behind these horrible policies to push the Christian agenda turn out to be predators, we can no longer say that Christian nationalism is about morality because it's literally platforming predators. It's about power. So if you hadn't heard, Trump's spiritual advisor and megachurch pastor, Robert Morris, was charged with SA. And it's not just tea, it's not just scandalous, it's very revealing. This is the same man that Trump gave a national platform to. Trump aligned himself with him for his Christian values while pushing policies, stripping away women's rights, stripping away LGBTQ rights, stripping away so many rights, all of the rights we've been talking about in this episode. And if you didn't know, the Morris Gateway Church is one of the largest in the United States. And again, it helped fund the same anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ+, anti-women's rights legislation that is being pushed through under the banner of faith and religion. Turns out the only thing being protected was their own power, and the way that they wanted to use this power was to be predators against children. The same children that you're so worried about drag queens being around. I haven't ever seen a headline or ever heard about a drag queen doing anything to harm a child in that way. But we hear about it from priests and megachurch pastors all the time, and not a peep from this religious extremist community who wants to ban drag shows. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And if we're wondering why this doesn't really make sense, but it keeps on trucking along, it's because this isn't a bug. The system is working exactly as it intended to. Because they never cared about protecting your kids, babe. Hate to break it to you. Although Christian nationalism loves to cloak itself in family values, the men who push this agenda, who can be and often are predators, don't face accountability. And maybe when they do, it's way too late by then. So tell me why you're preaching purity and you're protecting predators. Mic drop. Alliteration, mic drop. It's crazy to me that the architects of morality are literally being exposed as abusers, and like right Christian nationalism is like alive and thriving more than ever. Maybe we should spend a little bit more time dismantling all of that, especially while this structure that they're building is being used to punish women and queer folks and anyone who seemingly dares to live outside their control. Rolling back EMTALA is Trump's DOJ saying he's fine with women dying. And it's also putting doctors in a position where they are forced to choose between saving a woman's life or facing criminal charges. Hate that for us. But what you might not have heard about is the GOP's latest power grab, which is the conservative states that are working on a new no-fly list for pregnant women. Yep, you heard that right. Certain lawmakers in this country want to make it illegal for pregnant women to travel, or at the very least, to monitor pregnant women who travel. Why would some states want to track pregnant women's travel, you ask? That's a good question. Thanks for asking. Republican lawmakers are proposing to monitor and restrict pregnant women from traveling to prevent them from leaving restrictive states to get an abortion. Some bills are even suggesting tracking menstrual cycles of women to ensure they aren't traveling to terminate pregnancies. Which, like, how are the states going to get this information? Are you going to go into my menstrual cycle tracking app? What if I'm late? What if I have PCOS? What if I was really stressed out that month and I missed my period? What if I lie about it in my app? Like, how are you going to track this? Is it going to be word of mouth? Are people going to be snitching on each other? Are women going to be ratting each other out like the freaking witch trials all over again? Like, how are you going to enforce this? The fact that they are introducing this is scary, but thinking about the ways in which they could actually enforce this is terrifying to me. Especially when you think about the ways that, again, this isn't about abortions. It's about creating a system where the government owns women's bodies, where the government is in charge of what women can do with their bodies, where they can travel with their bodies, all of it. If they can control where you travel, what's next? Monitoring your bank transactions? Yeah, that'd probably be something they'd want to look into to ensure that you weren't paying for certain health cares. Arresting doctors in safe states? What's next? I'm genuinely asking, because we need to be thinking 4 steps ahead, because this is getting out of hand. Restricting travel for pregnant women sets a terrifying precedent, especially because how would you know they were pregnant? I can't help but feel like that is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from restricting travel from all women, or restricting travel from women without their husbands or male in their life, brother, dad, whoever, shepherding them. And it's easy to think about some of the things I'm talking about and be like, old white men, am I right? And you are right. It is the old white men. But there is like this new undercurrent of youthful right-wing extremists, and they are really good at marketing what they're selling, like very incognito and very cute and very aesthetically, okay? I think some influencers are popping into your head as I'm saying this, you know? Probably some who go by, like to call themselves or like to be seen as trad wives, aka traditional wives. So let's talk about how trad wives are social media pipeline to oppression and Christian nationalism, of course. The trad wife movement, it's not just a vibe, it's a recruitment tool. And like, okay, huge asterisk here. I really believe that feminism is like, you should be able to do what you want to do without any shame around it. So if that is being a stay-at-home mom, if you do want to cook all your meals from scratch, if you do want to not have kids and travel the world and be in a new country every day, if you want to be the biggest girl boss corporate CEO ever, if you want to be a working mom, like anything and everything in between, if you want to go live in the forest and be a witch, love that for you. Anything and everything in between, like if you like it, I love it. You know, like I'm not going to tell you how to live, how to dress, how to anything. If you align with more traditional ways of living, you want to live on a farm, you want your kids to be raised on a farm, like cool. That's awesome. Like my aunt and uncle had a farm and it was so much fun. So I don't want things to get twisted, because I don't want to push a narrative that women aren't powerful if they're doing soft things. Like the tagline for this show is your soft girl era starts here along with the fall of the patriarchy, because I believe those two things are intertwined. I believe that accessing your softness and your like feminine essence is inherently dismantling your inner misogyny and therefore dismantling the patriarchy as a whole. Like I genuinely believe that. So I'm not saying that like everyone needs to go and work a corporate 9 to 5 and like not, you know, if you want to be a stay-at-home whatever, do it. Do it. The problem I have is the way it seems that trad wives do what they want to do, all under this guise of conservative values and this conservative traditional agenda about the best role being to serve men. That's what I have an issue with. The feminine submission of it all and the giving away your power of it all is what I struggle with when it seems like these really popular influencers are encouraging or glamorizing the idea of giving up their career and submitting to their husbands. Like, again, like if you don't want to work a full-time career and you want to have kids, like that is very understandable. I think the idea of like having it all seems like insane to me. So if you want to have kids and you don't want a career, like do you, again, like if you like it, I love it. But, and also if you're doing it all to adhere to what men or your man wants you and expects you to do, I don't like that. I don't like that for you, girl. You in danger, girl. Like, eek, I don't like that very much. That doesn't feel like empowerment to me. And glamorizing that makes me really worried that young girls and women are going to think that that is like running towards that goalpost of like becoming a wife, mother, etc., running to that goalpost. They're not gonna take the time to figure out who they are and the type of person they would want to have as a partner and as a husband and as a father, and run into these choices and commitments that end up sort of like you're building your own like cage prison of choices. And I think it's also like the ways that's like this movement is so sneaky. At first it's just very aesthetic, like cute dresses, homemade bread, no 9 to 5, like sign me up, girl. That sounds awesome. But then you turn a quick corner and it's like a pipeline into religious extremism. Like at first glance, the trad wife movement seems very harmless and like super cute and like even fun. Like, yeah, hanging out all day, not clocking in and like making fun, cute little baking food. Like I love to bake. Like that sounds like so much fun for me. Like think about it, hanging out in your flowy linen dress, figuring out how to do your sourdough starter, husbands who do all the driving so I can be a passenger princess. Like this all sounds really great to me and I like it. But then once you like dig a little deeper, it like jumps from cottagecore dream to TikTok sponsored gateway to Christian nationalism. Like boom, boom. So let's break it down. Let's trudge through this a little bit more and pinpoint what I'm trying to say. So what is a trad wife? A trad wife is someone who sees themselves as a traditional wife adhering to traditional values. She's the girlie who's on your feed, baking bread at 9 a.m., making her kids food from scratch, getting the eggs from the chicken coochie in the coop. Okay, it's giving 1950s, but it's also giving submissive wife. And like, that's kind of what I'm very curious about when looking at the trad wives, is because I love to lean into my soft girl era. And I see softness as an act of rebellion in this world that like wants you to be rigid and hard and tough. Like being soft, I feel like is such a sweet, joyous way to rebel. You know, your softness is rebellion, your joy is rebellion, your laughter is rebellion. Like I really believe all of that. Like rejecting grind culture, healing your inner child, like that to me is softness is rebellion. But I feel like almost like the trad wives weaponize that and turn softness into like compliance. The trad wife movement isn't telling women to embrace their softness so that they're empowered. It feels to me like they're telling us to shrink, obey, and to find fulfillment in serving your man and serving your God. It's often in that order. And like looking at like the 1950s is such like a beautiful attire, fun music. It's like such a great moment in time. But seeing this trad wife moment isn't just harmless nostalgia to like the 1950s cutesy dootsy vibes. It's like not about your personal style or your personal choice. It's about influence. And that influence is being used to lead women, especially young white women, down a path that ends up with them voting against their own interests, voting against their own rights, with this like underlying message of like women shouldn't lead, women shouldn't work, and women shouldn't be questioning male authority. It's giving Serena joy. It's giving Serena joy is what it's doing. And I feel like there's so many trad wife influencers I could point to. I mean, Ben Shapiro, his sister is a trad wife influencer. And like, but I just don't want to platform anyone. And like, I am such a girl's girl. Like I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs. So it's like hard for me to like, I'm not going to sit up here and bash her like everybody else, you know? That's how I feel talking about this, because I always want to empower people to do whatever makes them feel good. And if that's baking a cake, like go off, queen, you know? But it's not about the cake. It's about how this is a tool for Christian nationalism. These influencers are part of a bigger playbook. When women are self-policing and upholding gender roles with such rigidity, willingly, mind you, it gives the patriarchy a break from oppressing us, because like we're doing the work for the patriarchy. It's like the patriarchy doesn't have to push us down because we're doing it ourselves and we're pretending like we love it. And the more women that buy into this idea that this way of life is like gonna make you happier or more peaceful or make you a better mom or make you have a better community or whatever it is that you're searching for, the easier it makes it for lawmakers to justify stripping back reproductive rights, defunding education, and essentially legislating women back into the kitchen. Don't be a part of your own downfall. And I think that's why it's hard, because for me, I'm like, if you want to live your life this way, go for it. But right now, it's such a scary time to be promoting those values and that way of being, because it all is like streamlining into this right-wing Christian ideology. And if those things weren't combined, like, yeah, if you want to live a more traditional life, go off. But now you're empowering these extremists to make choices for everyone else to be living that lifestyle. And it's like, not everyone wants to. Not everyone wants to go back in time to where women couldn't work or wear pants or whatever the fuck. So yeah, the next time you see a trad wife video, think about who benefits from women romanticizing submission. Who benefits from that? And is it still a choice to do whatever you want if only one version of womanhood is being celebrated in this algorithm? But most importantly, why are the loudest voices in the trad wife space seemingly always backed by men with political agendas? Softness doesn't mean silence. You can romanticize your life and resist oppression. Like, two things can be true. You can bake bread without buying into a belief system that sees women as property or second-class citizens. And if anyone tries to tell you that feminism is ruining society, ask them who built the society we should go back to, because it was a woman and it's not doing us too well. Times is tough, okay? And again, like, empowerment to every person is different. Like, I have Muslim friends who wear a hijab and that is what is empowering to them. And who am I to say, like, I think like the Western world often sees women in hijabs and they're like, you're being oppressed. And they're like, I'm literally not. Like, I feel this is like part of my culture and I feel very empowered when I wear that. So I don't want to sit here and be like policing what people are doing with their bodies. Like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to highlight the different ways that Christian nationalism is like flooding our screens right now and our neighborhoods and our education systems and our algorithms and our lobbyists and our politicians and our bills and our laws and our hospitals and everywhere. Like, Christian nationalism is everywhere. And trad wives is one of the ways it is succeeding. I think the funniest part of the trad wife movement to me is like this call for traditional women and traditional values. And it's like, I don't see any men out here building Sistine chapels or whatever used to be traditional for men to do. Let's dive in to this episode's version of Pick Me Rehab and see if we need to do some unlearning with our internalized Christian nationalism. If anything I said about the trad wives was triggering for you, this might be a good one for you. Okay, if something is happening to people that is bad, and it is because of things that are man-made, like our legal system, and you think that's God's will, you're part of the problem. Okay? It's not God's design. And even if you think that, like, that's your God, it might not be mine. Like, you don't get to decide. My choice is for me. A line I hear a lot from the Christian right is that, like, I'm a woman, but I don't care about the abortion restrictions because I would never get an abortion, so it doesn't affect me. Okay, shocking that you don't care about other people. But if you want to have children, it does affect you, because in some states, they're essentially making miscarriages illegal, and miscarriages happen so often. It's like 25% of pregnancies are miscarriages. So if you're someone who wants to get pregnant and you don't want an abortion, you should be very invested in abortion bans, because your life is at stake, especially if you're in Idaho. Okay, so how should we recognize internalized Christian nationalism? Because it's so shoved down our throats, it might be affecting you. Even if you're not a religious person, it might be affecting you more than you realize, or like the people that are in your life more than you realize. So when your personal choices aligns with laws that strip rights away from other people, it's not a choice, babe. It's a tool of oppression. Point blank, period. Another thing to think about and dismantle within yourself is being observant of how the systems of oppression and the patriarchy are reacting to you, because a system that rewards women for being submissive will never protect them when they are fighting back or taking up space or asking for things. And it doesn't really seem like a supportive environment if you making your own choices is going to like get you in jail, or the machine is going to rage against you because of it. Like, girl, what? So what are some ways we can unlearn it? I think most women my age have gone through a journey or are currently in a journey of evaluating the narratives they were taught when they were younger. And I think girls are taught to be obedient in ways that boys aren't. So as an adult, we get to unlearn the ways that like we equate being obedient with being safe. Like obedience does not equal safety. Another tool you can use to sort of unlearn this pick-me, this specific brand of pick-meism that is Christian nationalism is challenge the it's not my problem mindset. I think a really big problem we're having in this country is that so many groups of people's rights are being stripped away, and a lot of people are like, not my problem. Okay, this man wanted to take away people's rights, but I wanted a good economy, so I voted for him. Like, if you don't think it's your problem that other people's rights are being taken away, that people are being detained for using their freedom of speech, that legal citizens that permanent residents are being detained for using their First Amendment right, like that should affect you. Like, it might not be affecting you in this moment, but if you don't see how that affects you, like, open your eyes, you know? And even if it wasn't going to affect you, like what I was saying in the beginning of this episode is like, yep, Department of Education is slashed. It honestly probably won't affect me personally much because I'm rich. I'll find a fucking private school to send my kids to, or go live in a different country if I want, like with all of this stuff. But of course I still care, because even though it doesn't directly affect me, it does. Like, because we are all connected, and none of our human rights are safe unless all of our human rights and civil liberties are safe. So if people are not getting their due process and able to see their lawyers, like that doesn't bode well for any of us if that's happening in this country. If people aren't able to make healthcare choices or the right choices for their family that should be between them and their God and their doctor, like that doesn't bode well for any of us in this country. So I really, really implore you now more than ever to challenge this, like, it's not my problem kind of mindset. Like, just because you personally might not ever need an abortion doesn't mean no one else should have access. Like, come on, guys. We got to do better. It's 2025. Shit's getting real. And this wouldn't be a Christian nationalist pick-me rehab if we didn't highlight the pick-me to power pipeline that we got going on right now, especially fueled by the internet and social media. Some women really believe they're doing the empowered thing by preaching and voting for their own oppression. And those same groups of people are going to be in the comment section being like, see, this is why we don't vote for the liberal agenda, because you think you're elitist and you know more than me. Like, okay. But like, I don't think those two things can be true. I don't think you can be empowered and voting for your own oppression. Like, that's an L for me. Like, I don't see how that's a win. Because think about it, when your choice reinforces systemic inequities, strips other people of their bodily autonomy and healthcare options, props up a religious political agenda, it's not feminism, it's not empowerment. That is cosplay for the patriarchy. And if you're really standing 10 toes down on that, that's like some real pick-me behavior. And I really, really don't want women to feel like they have to choose one or the other. Like, you can love homemaking without hating feminists. Be a stay-at-home feminist, girl. Do it. You got this. Wear vintage aprons without romanticizing inequality and oppression. And you can embrace softness without being submissive and dominated over. I guess the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to trade your autonomy for your aesthetic. So that was the segment. Okay, so I laid out a lot of the problems. As we wrap up, I say that, but I'm about to talk at you for like another hour. Let's focus on how we can fight back. What can we do? Because I just threw a lot at you, and you're probably like, CC Binx, what am I supposed to do with all of this? Now I'm even more overwhelmed than I was before I watched this episode. And fair enough. It's a very overwhelming time right now. Okay, the first thing I want to say to anybody and everybody is the midterms matter. While we're sitting here watching videos on the internet, these people are passing laws that really affect us. And the way they are handling this administration is showing this administration how much slack they have. For example, like defying a federal judge, you know, like that is not what we want to see. So the midterms matter because we need people in office that are going to hold this administration accountable and like uphold the rule of law. So get your voteness ready, figure out how you can get involved from the midterms, like as soon as possible. It's never too early to start looking into grassroots movements for your legislators in your area. Speaking of grassroots movements, other ways that you can help is supporting local abortion funds or women-led organizations, LGBTQ+-led organizations, immigrant-led organizations that are fighting these policies, because there's a lot lot of great groups doing the work right now. So I think in this moment, coalition building is so important and community organizing is so important, because at the top, things are just like cuckoo bananas. That a great way to sort of combat this is creating a lot of that strength and that power and those numbers at a community level at the moment, so that like when we have the opportunity, i.e. the midterms, like we strike. Other ways to fight back are educating yourselves and mobilizing. As I said, like community organization is so important now. The biggest weapon Christian nationalism has is this like silence around it. Talk about it, criticize it. I think people feel like worry about criticizing a religion, but I'm not criticizing Christianity. I'm criticizing Christian nationalism. Like once you started making your worldviews my laws that I have to abide by, like it's the laws now. I'm not criticizing your religion. I'm criticizing the laws that you're pushing. Does that make sense? And push back against misinformation. Speaking of education, please push back against misinformation, especially in your own circles. The far right, like they just bombard the internet with misinformation. It's crazy to see. Like no facts, just and then they say left-wing media is fake news, which, I'm sure there's ways that the left-wing media isn't always truthful. That's not the argument I'm trying to have. I just push back on misinformation. And find protests near you. There are protests going on across the United States, like every week, and the media isn't covering it. Honestly, around the world, like anti-fascism protests going on around the world, and so many going on in the US, and the media isn't covering it. And I'm not really sure why, but like find protests near you. I'm sure there are some, and they're happening at the very least monthly. I feel like they're happening almost every week across the nation. And if you don't know how to get involved, like that's a great place to start. So just to wrap up, some final thoughts. This isn't about faith. It's about power. And like me personally, I'm not going back without a fight. So I hope the same is true for you, because like, what the f- are we doing here then? Christian nationalism thrives on silence. The more we speak up, the harder it is for them to rewrite these rules and make it seem like it's in our own best interest. If it looks like empowerment, but is actually something that's very controlling, it probably is Christian nationalism, even if she's in a cute dress. Okay? Don't be fooled. Thank you so much for joining today's episode with us. I know this was kind of a doozy. Not the funnest topic to dive into, but nevertheless, gotta have these conversations because we all need to be on the same page about some of this stuff going on right now. But yeah, thank you for joining. Please like, subscribe, share, do all the things, comment. Let me know what was your favorite part of this episode and what is something I shared that you didn't know about before. And what do you want to see me talk about? I've gone through some like different variations of episodes, and I'd love to know what people want to hear more about, because a lot of these I'm just scratching the surface. And if there's something that you're super interested in, I can dive deeper or just talk about a completely new topic. Speaking of topics, I hope you join us next time where we are diving into a very fun topic. We will be talking about red flags in disguise, aka when caring boyfriends are actually controlling as fuck. Or I guess I should say, are actually controlling AF. I know from experience, my girl, if he is policing your outfit, it's not romance, it's patriarchy. But anyways, see you then. Again, thanks again so much for listening. Please share this episode, and please follow feminist and queer organizations who are doing the work. Stay loud, stay informed, stay radical. We're in this together, and I'll see you next week. Until then, stay soft, stay sovereign, and as always, smash the patriarchy from the comfort of your home. Thanks again for joining. Mwah.